Welcome to Reach for Growth. I'm Gamal. Let me hit you with a stat that should make every marketeer sweat. In 2023, $84 billion of ad spent, we're talking globally, were wasted on ad fraud. That's 1 out of every $5 gone. And here's the kicker. Even in our region, the MENA, it's even worse. Up to 20% of ad spent is actually spent on bots and fake clicks. And if we kept ignoring it, this number is expecting to improve from 1.25 billion only in the MENA region to 1.6 billion by 2026. And this is not only about wasted budget. Actually, ad fraud is the silent killer of performance marketing. Why? Because it poisons your data. It tracks your optimization and it tracks you into making the wrong decisions. And the truth is, most CMOs are actually underestimating the scale of it. So here is the big question. What if we can't flip the wasted budget into profitable growth? What if we can take fraud prevention from just a predictive strategy to actually a growth strategy? That's why I have here with me a founder who built just that. Nasser Ouddjane started Tapper. He was able to observe the problem early and build a company that helps brands cut their CPAs by 20% and using their budget in actually driving growth. So this episode is going to be only about how to fight ad fraud in performance marketing. It will open your eyes. And if you ever wondered if you're spending your budget on your ads to reach real people or just burning cash on bots, this episode is going to deliver just that. So yeah, thank you, Nasser, for coming to the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So Nasser, ad fraud is a very big topic, yet it doesn't receive a lot of attention. Why do you think is that?
I think because ad fraud is invisible by design, first and foremost. And I also think that when we talk about ad fraud, the lexicon which we use has remained consistent, but the tactics has evolved. And let me explain what I mean by that. Around 10 or 15 years ago, ad fraud was reserved within verification, brand safety, viewability, i.e., was the ad served? Was it brand safe? And was it viewable? And what's happened over the course of the decade is that it's evolved to, was that a real user? That's the real question. It's what we aim to solve with Tapper. And the reason why is because there has been an explosion in non-genuine engagement. Half of the internet is non-human. Mm-hmm. This is growing every year. The proportion of non-human actors that are malicious is also growing. So for a CMO, I click on Google Ads, whether it's genuine or invalid, it looks the same. And as a result of that, it can be missed and it can be considered noise. And you're absolutely right. I think it is the silent killer of performance marketing.
Mm-hmm. But like, if we try to, I really like what you mentioned about how it evolved for the past 10 years. And I guess we can even explain it further to make sure that everyone understand what we mean by that. Because for me, like, I think it's more about technical terms that is like acting as gatekeeper for people not to actually understand the problem. So if we talk, for example, the part that you say about brand safety, what does it mean for marketeers working on performance marketing?
Well, for brand safety specifically, this is content that should not be associated with your brand. So whether that's pornography, whether that's gambling or something that's illicit. Mm-hmm. And why performance marketers should care about ad fraud isn't just related to brand safety. That's obviously going to hurt your company. Mm-hmm. It's going to impact the reputation. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious why your content shouldn't be there. Why it's evolved and how Tapper is tackling this is that because it's silent by nature, clicks, impressions, engagement, it's stealing potential conversions. It's inflating CAC, it's inflating CPA, it's harming ROAS. And that's why marketers ought to be concerned with ad fraud.
And I guess the tricky part is that you can actually have relatively higher ROAS, but it's not coming from the actual budget that you have spent. Because if you're spending on a pool of audience, let's say, and this audience is generating a ROAS of, let's say, 10 roughly, but it's actually the actual ROAS in this case is actually 20 or more, because half of this is fraud if we took this example. So I guess we can, and I guess the tricky part is that when I discuss this with you for the first time, in my mind, before talking to you, when it comes to fraud prevention, was always something that is very specific, that for brands that they invest too much money on brand awareness. So they, by nature, they're going for this programmatic, they're going for those kind of different channels. So they need to have some kind of fraud prevention. Or for brands that they invest massively on app install, which also there is a lot of things that can happen as fraud, whether it's click invention, a lot of things that can happen for app install, and a lot of MMPs that they have this kind of solution for prevention. So it was not clear to me, where is performance marketing in this?
Yeah, so I would put where there are conversions happening, where there are transactions, where there is a clear and quantifiable end result. What's interesting is how you did such a wonderful introduction on framing the problem of ad fraud. And what was missed was that the $84 billion a year number does not include mobile app, and does not include CTV. And mobile app is a cesspool. And we already know what a mess programmatic is. What we're primarily focused on, specifically within performance, is Google and Meta. This is where, especially in this region, 80% of the dollars go. And incidentally, it's considered the cleanest.
True.
And it often is, compared to programmatic, compared to mobile app. However, there is a non-trivial amount. It can be from 5%, and we see anything up to 25% invalid traffic. And there's a spectrum of what that means. It can be platform mistargeting, it could be spoof domains, it can be obviously bots and invalid and non-genuine users.
And okay, now before talking to the technicality of how we can work with this on campaigns such as PMAX and all of that, let's first hear the story from you. So what actually make you start Tapper?
It started after leaving my first company, which I started and then sold my position to existing investors, and the core team, who are engineers and data scientists, we banded together and wanted to solve a problem within MarTech, specifically with improving conversion rates based on audience signals and device attributes. And we launched an MVP. This is December of 2023. We did this with some of the regional CMOs here within retail e-commerce. And what we discovered on the first test was that there was an absurdly high number of strange user agents and what we discovered to be fake clicks and engagement. And then this is where we fell down the mother of all rabbit holes. It was that we discovered that these campaigns where we were supposed to be optimizing based on, as I mentioned, device attributes, were not working. And when I was asking and looking into the faces of the marketers and CMOs, I was left with expressions and shrugs, which was, this is a tax on the system. And this was the light bulb moment. This is when we knew that we had to do something about removing this the fake engagement.
And here we're talking about engagement. We're talking about it from a development point of view. We're not talking about from a performance. I mean, like the clicks that came through on the campaigns, performance campaigns, the clicks that happen, this kind of engagement. It's not like as if we're talking about engagement campaigns, right? Just to clarify.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's cool. But like, just out of curiosity, how was it to work with to work with like Google API and Meta API to be able to push those kind of changes? Because my understanding that Tapper pushes all of this automatically, right?
That's correct. We have a variety of approvals within the Meta and Google ecosystem. They are open APIs, and I'd say the developer ecosystem within Meta is smoother and more responsive than Google, but both of them have extensive documentation. And for a service like Tapper, it requires some high-level approvals and different accesses over time, which are granted, and they do thorough testing. The I would say experience overall was positive, and I'm obviously glad that we have access to those restricted scopes. And what I mean by that is that when Tapper classifies a user as invalid, and we can get to the nuts and bolts, we're affecting the budget of our customers, and as a result, impacting the revenue of Google and Meta. And that's obviously a very sensitive subject, because that's where they earn all of their money on the whole. And being permitted to do that, I'm grateful for, especially when one considers the evolution of Tapper in solving the ad fraud problem in other platforms, TikTok, Snap, etc. And they do not have access to open APIs. They do not, provide access for companies like Tapper to go and access and then use their infrastructure to exclude audiences, etc.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. This is the case for TikTok and Snapchat. I guess one of the things that we always assume that if it's Meta and Google providing it, that everyone providing it.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But like now, since 2023 to now, we are in 2025. How can you describe the journey so far?
It's been a roller coaster. It's been, fortunately, it's working. We're solving a problem. We're growing. And the business is creating most of its revenue outside of the outside of the Middle Eastern market. And we're in Europe, we're in the US. It's a great team we've put together, and we've worked together for many years. So we understand each other, and we're growing in the Middle East as well. So we've recently made some hires in sales development and some other roles.
Oh, nice. And just a quick question also, because I was discussing with a friend of mine who started his own ad tech company, and he was telling me he was a little bit disappointed about the region. Like when it comes to selling actual solution in the region, they are not as easier than selling it in Europe and the US. Yeah,
that's true. It's come a long way though. I founded my first startup in 2019 in B2B, and it's totally different. The experience with even incorporation and understanding that this is startup, entrepreneurship, opening a bank account. If you speak to entrepreneurs here in terms of dealing with banks, they'll tell you some stories. And the place has matured significantly. But it's not to say that it's as mature as Europe or America. This is why half of software spend globally is in the US. Usually the common mantra is that you start something and then you go to America. This is what European founders do. A lot of founders in the Middle East have done this as well. The narrative is changing, and one could argue that you can build a company globally from Dubai. This is what we're setting out to do. It remains to be seen because, frankly, a lot of people think Dubai, they think the Gulf, and they think there's a lot of money here. Frankly, there isn't.
Okay.
So if you've ever negotiated the contract with an end customer, it's clear that they're extremely shrewd to the extent where you have to make the value and the ROI very clear.
But I guess in your case, the fact is when we were discussing, we're talking like you were very confident about the CPA 20% minimum improvements that can happen purely from Google and Meta.
I wouldn't say minimum. This is what an average that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
We work with customers that have achieved 30, 40, 45%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to predict. It's obviously hard because we're dealing with a complex system.
Sure.
And self-attributing the reduction in CPA to us is great. And what if we work with a company that sells online sneakers and they run out of stock? Well, what happens to the CPA then? And that isn't obviously our fault. So it's a complex system, but on the whole, and we can get into the nuts and bolts of how the system works with regards to excluding audiences, classifying traffic. But if you're a large advertiser, there is a non-trivial amount of wastage within these black box campaigns, such as PMAX, and programmatically excluding audiences so that the AI isn't optimizing for fake engagement over time compounds. This is what we're seeing.
Okay. And here, like, before going through the PMAX point, like, my point was from asking that question about here working in the MENA versus globally. I wanted to tackle it from working with marketeers here versus working from the marketeers on the other side. Is it really, because at the end of the day, what I know is if you were able to provide the value early on, it's no brainer that let's go, for example, for a trial. If my solution provide a value, why can't we work together? But here in the MENA region, it's different, and I want to know how is it different from marketing perspective, not from the banking and all that.
I would take the other side of that argument. Actually,
really?
I'm not sure the experience of your friend working in ad tech. It really depends on what that specific solution is. And what I mean by that is when one considers the ad tech ecosystem, what's happening is that there is this budget for media spend. And the marketers have been burned. They've been burned so badly that they don't want to put their trust in programmatic or these other types of destinations. And they put their money, more often than not, Google,
And
Meta.
Yep.
Social, especially in this region, commands such a high attention and the dollars go there. So if you're an ad tech, which is essentially competing for this budget, it becomes extremely difficult. Even if your solution is legitimate and not prone to fraud, which frankly is a minority of solutions. But even if it isn't within that space, then you're competing with the hundreds of other ad tech providers for 5 or 6% of budget that's remaining. And then therefore, it's self-explanatory why the CMO or the marketer does not seem open to testing or trying new tools because there's an extremely limited budget and a huge number of vendors. And you have to be very well networked. You have to know the agencies and understand what their needs are. And you also have to have direct relationships with the brands and thread these needles.
Yeah, makes sense. But I wonder if it's exactly the same way in Europe and in the US.
I think ultimately it is. I think that if we talk about the persona, if we were going to talk about like company building for a second, the persona of the marketer is the one that, and let's talk about CMO, for example, is the least tenured at the C-suite, meaning they have the shortest shelf life. And it's often said that they have to constantly defend and justify their position. It makes it incredibly difficult to be a CMO, particularly in competitive industries. And as a result of that, their openness to try new tools, in my opinion, is amongst the highest across any enterprise. So if you have a MarTech tool, and your MarTech tool is either saving money or, most importantly, making money, if you can demonstrate that in a clean pitch, they'll try you. That is not the same in other departments. Other departments are profoundly much more difficult to actually get your solution in that pilot stage. Now, obviously, you have to deliver, And obviously, because of the short tenure of the CMO, it may be that you get the pilot and then you get the contract, but then they subsequently move company, and then the new CMO comes, and then you can be ripped out. So it's not a clean path. But I take the other side with regards to the openness of marketers, in particular, to try new tools or to pilot. There is a regional aspect here as well. We have a system, the kafala system, sponsorship. That means that the status quo is the default. And what I mean by that is we're not taking risk. I'm sponsored. I want to stay in this country. I can get fired if I use your tool. So don't call me again.
Interesting.
But this is not related just to marketers.
To marketing, yeah.
This is related to trying to start something new and innovative and trying to put this into a company to solve a problem with inherent risks.
Oh, this was actually, thank you for sharing this. Despite us not talking about Dapper and ad fraud for a second, but I guess it helps to build that trust and to also share some insights about your founder story. But the thing is, it's also very inspiring to me that usually the least risky way to move is actually to take more risks. It's not the other way around. So if you are like in this position that you just described, that you're worried about your sponsorship, even though right now Golden Visa becomes more accessible, not only in the UAE, but also in Saudi, for you need to take more risks in order for you to feel this is the only way that you can feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the region is moving so fast and progressing in many different ways. So as I was mentioning, startup incorporation or bank accounts, that's changed. The optimism of people, because they believe that there's economic growth, means that they're actually wanting to take more risks. They can think longer term. And it's the reason why I've decided to found a company here again. So I'm with you on that.
Cool. Let's take a little bit technical now. Let's talk about PMAX. So the issue with PMAX always, it's not just a black box, but it's that Google created PMAX as a black box that cannot be touched. That was mainly the main problem of PMAX, that a lot of like fraud prevention tools that I'm aware of, they can give you insight about what's happening on PMAX. But when it comes to, okay, let's push those changes to PMAX, they were actually helpless. They cannot do it because the Google API, it's not allowing to do changes real time when it comes to pushing changes, for example, excluding this or including that. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about this.
That's absolutely correct. It's considered the black box that cannot be changed. We can change the targeting algorithm, and this is one of the most powerful features that we have within Tapper. We use and utilize the existing infrastructure within Google, whether that's audience segment exclusion or audience exclusions. And within PMAX, it's actually not permitted to do a flat out audience exclusion like other campaign types such as search, display, shopping or otherwise. What they have is a decrease in relevancy.
What does this mean?
What this means is that what Tapper can do is programmatically set and attach an audience to your PMAX campaign of users that have been classified as invalid. So these bots, these accidental clicks, these out of geo clicks, they can go into a list and it's unlimited, but it's bound by time, which we can get into. And they can be attached to your PMAX campaigns. And instead of instructing Google not to show ads to these users, which we do across all other campaign types and is the main value proposition of Tapper, specifically within PMAX, it's decreasing the relevancy by 2 times. So you set it to 0.5. You can set this yourself. It's configurable. But on the whole, you are spending less money on this segment of users and more money on genuine engagement. And as a result, this is how you can reduce your CPA and improve your overall efficiency and profitability. But it's interesting, how you said, specifically with, and it's not just PMAX, there are more of these developments.
Yeah, Advantage Plus, shopping campaign for Meta. and more is coming into the same direction of fully autonomous campaigns that doesn't require changes at all.
Exactly. I mean, I think Zuck said it. His vision is just give me your credit card.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, it was hilarious because I think about it, like even when it comes to the budget limit, I guess was one of the recent updates that happened within the past couple of months, that even now, if example, if you have a budget, this was Google actually, if you have a budget and you said like this campaign I wanted to spend 10K, the rule of thumb is that the campaign can actually go up to 10% higher out of the budget. The budget that you set, this was acceptable. That can go to, instead of 10, it can go to 11. But now even they increase this to 25%, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's like the direction of not only like we're going to spend your budget, but we are going to scale your budget even though you didn't make the decision. So it's very important to, and I guess also changes the role of marketeers and performance marketeers. It's not only to fully control, but it's more like to monitor and observe, and how can you create a processes of control because you observe it over time, so you're aware of changes happening and then you need to react in a certain way.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's visibility, which we're getting less of as marketers, and then there's control, which we're also getting less of. And I wholeheartedly agree with your statement. I think that agencies and marketers alike could consider themselves similar to financial institutions and stewards of this capital. So stewards meaning that you have a fiduciary responsibility, a financial responsibility, because you're no longer doing bid optimizations.
Yeah.
You're no longer in like the belly of the beast configuring, but you ought to be, as much as possible, understanding what's going on, having that visibility. Even though it's being taken away from you from the larger platforms, there are ways and techniques to do it. And having that type of steward mindset means that you can actually safeguard the budget and can explain what's happening to it.
Yeah, 100%. And so the interesting part about the point of PMAX and Tapper, that actually you're not excluding it 100%. It's only about reducing relevance. So it theoretically it still appear on this audience, but with much less power as it used to be when it comes to budget allocation.
That's correct.
And it's effective. Based on the case studies that you've shared with me, it's actually effective.
Yes. And partly because PMAX is aggregating so much inventory, which we can say diplomatically are not the best quality, and the nature of it being very opaque. We're seeing that for large advertisers, so the public case studies, so Public Group, one of Europe's largest omnichannel retailers, hundreds of millions of dollars of annual recurring revenue, and we doubled ROAS and reduced CPA by 30%. They are a large advertiser with several million clicks per month. They really are quite huge. And we were able to achieve that because at scale, with PMAX and the other types of campaigns that they were running, the audience exclusions were in the tens of thousands on a monthly basis.
That's massive.
It's massive, and contrast that to what you can be doing with IP exclusions within search display shopping, for instance, which have a limit of 500 per campaign. So that's nothing.
True.
And it's very difficult to do that manually. We do that programmatically as well, and we're rotating IPs in real time based on threat, based on time. But with audience exclusions that can be attached and applied to a variety of different campaigns, we are really seeing that we're tackling ad fraud, but we're also tackling just waste, human error, and other inefficiencies, which when you put them together for a large advertiser, even if your ad fraud is quite low, the other inefficiencies can get to 4 or 5%. And if you're spending $10 million a year and it's 5%,
it's significant.
It's more than $500,000 a year, 600K. And your 3-to-1 ROAS model is $1.5 million in incremental revenue.
No, it's a significant amount, and also as you mentioned, if you're thinking about reinvesting this amount again instead of just wasting it, the 600 or the 500, with your ROAS, this is actually more revenue you can just achieve with the budget that you have. You didn't ask for more budget. But tell me more about the other inefficiencies that you guys are working. I thought it's all about ad fraud.
Yes, it's not all about ad fraud. This is kind of how we've evolved as a company. Tackling ad fraud, yes, I would consider this the low-hanging fruit. What we're primarily interested in is reducing the CPA for our customers. That's the main thing. Why is that important? What we've discovered is that Tapper telling you as an advertiser that you've saved $10,000 this month, and then you look at your metrics and then discover that everything's the same, isn't very convincing. And rightly so. If there is ad fraud and Tapper removes it, then you ought to see it with the quality of your traffic, the quality of your leads, the reduction in CPA, and improvement in revenue. It's verifiable. You should look at this in your own metrics and see this. And that's what we're concerned with, rather than just tackling ad fraud. And as I mentioned, most of the ad fraud that exists is outside of Google Meta, so mobile, cesspool, programmatic, which we do as well with DV360. But we're primarily concerned with Google and Meta because there's more dollars going there year over year. So there are different types of mechanism and techniques that we employ within Tapper to achieve those goals, which is reducing CPA. Some of them can be, as I mentioned briefly earlier, platform mistargeting. And that can take a variety of shapes. But the platforms are moving the marketer to broad-based search and phrases instead of exact. So you're bidding on keywords that have no relevance to your audiences. So you're getting the clicks, but you're getting bounce rates. You're getting aborted ad clicks, which means that there are high frequencies of clicks and no page loads, or suspicious ad clicks where there are no events on page. All of this can be considered a part of ad fraud, and it's also just waste. And what I mean by that is that you should not be spending money there. And then the platform mistargeting can also apply to geography. And what I mean by that is that you can have between 4 and 10% of your engagement outside of the regions where you're advertising, despite specifying that within the platform. Why are you getting clicks from Bangladesh or China or elsewhere when you're advertising in the UAE?
And do you think it's just something more than just people using VPN?
We look at whether the VPN is on, and if the VPN is on, we do not consider that an out of geo click.
So you can see actually if it's out of this country due to a VPN or an actual, like is it coming from the US as a VPN or coming from the US as a US?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
We can see if the VPN is on, just to be clear. And if the VPN is on, then we're not going to consider it a out of geography click, because it could be somebody based in Saudi Arabia or the UAE. We can't see where that user is. But we're not going to assume that the user is in the US if their VPN is on.
But okay, but it's very interesting. I always thought that the main purpose of a VPN to block people from seeing your own country. But if due to some kind of development that you were able to see if I'm using a VPN, so what's the point of me using a VPN as a user?
Yes, we can't see your true IP address, and I think that's the main point. But again, with VPNs, a huge amount of invalid traffic comes from that. And look, I use a VPN. I think most people in this region use a VPN. You are giving permission as a user of that VPN for your VPN to be used. And as a result of that, what that means is the user that is engaging on fraud, let's say ad fraud or for whatever that is, cannot be considered over a long period of time to be associated with that IP address. This brings the complexity, because if I spot fraud on this IP address, but it could be that a VPN is used in a residential proxy IP network or something equivalent, you can't take that IP and then put it into a blacklist. And this is how the fraud providers, the solution and verification providers used to do it. I think some of them still do, which is that we're going to take this blacklist of IPs and we're going to apply it on your campaigns. And it's going to block you and it's going to block me. And what that results in is false positives. And what that results in is not a reduction in CPA. So this is the reason why we don't do it. We just simply look at, okay, if the VPN is on and the user has set that they only want to show ads in the UAE, we will not block that user with a VPN with the US. We will track it because, as I mentioned, a lot of invalid traffic comes from proxy networks and other things like that. So it goes from green to yellow in terms of this traffic-like analogy.
Okay. So I can understand that maybe you have an algorithm that learns the behavior over time of the user. So if it's a VPN user, is it really human or maybe fraud, something like that?
That's correct. We employ a number of techniques that starts with installing a tracking template at the account level. And this tracking template enables us to see every click and impression. So we look at the device type, the IP address, the location, the time zone, the screen resolution, the location, and a whole host of other parameters. And in addition to that, we have behavioral models. So we're looking at the click and then seeing whether it passes the sniff test, if you will. What I mean by that is something doesn't look right here. That's what our algorithm is doing. So it says that it's an iPhone, but the user agent doesn't match the device and it has 32 cores. That means it's a server. And in addition to that, we're analyzing the behavior. So like you said, they're trained to predict if the user is going to convert or not. This is one of our main models. And we're also looking for anomalies, so anything out of the ordinary. And this is analyzing the curvature of the mouse, the number of events, and the sequence of events. And anything that doesn't look like human behavior, we flag it. And then we add it up with, okay, does it come from a suspicious IP? Does the device or the click look genuine? And then we put that together along with some other parameters, and then we return a score. And if it returns a score that is high, then we will then put that user in that exclusion list that we were talking about. And then that exclusion list ensures that the advertiser is no longer paying for that user to see the ad.
And the other thing that you talked about is regarding the broad keyword versus an exact match keyword. Now, this is a little bit tricky because every time any marketer talks to anyone from Google Reps, they always suggest to go for the broad match. The broad match now is becoming smarter. You can rely on it. It's going to reach the right people. So is it the same from your experience? Do you see the same from your experience where your tool able to validate this, or maybe it's much more complicated than that?
It is more nuanced. I was just providing that as an example. What you will see in Tapper is whether you should be or not. You have the insights because you'll see your keywords, and then you will see the number of clicks on those keywords. You will see what type of match was it, broad, phrase, exact, and then the invalid traffic and conversions. So you can see for yourself if there is a correlation between the exact and performance, and whether there's an inverse correlation between the type of match and the proportional percentage of invalid traffic.
I got you. So basically, you want to be very diplomatic. You don't want to mention it's like abroad. It's not working.
I'd say that being diplomatic is always helpful. We're playing in the ecosystem of Google and Meta. It's important that we make sure that we shoot straight, and we don't see across all customer environments the same thing. What we do is try to provide with the philosophy of sunlight is the best disinfectant. So we're going to provide the sunlight and give you the analytics and insights with regards to, and we're obviously blocking in real time as well, right? But you can also see, hang on, we shouldn't be doing this. And that may not be just related to the match type. It could just be related to the actual strategy itself. And, you can download these reports and act upon it as well.
And right now it's only about insights. There is no automated workflow on top of that. Like, for example, if I look at the report, it gives me the insight that this is something that I need to change. Can I change it within Tapper itself so it can be automatically done every week, every month, or do I have to do the decision myself?
What changes are you referring to?
Like, if we're talking about the example of the broad versus exact match, I'm doing the optimization. Almost every marketeer that I know, they have this kind of practice within their team that they look into the keyword on a weekly basis, roughly, to try to see what to add, what to negate from their keywords. So I would just trying to understand, is this an Tapper will add an additional layer of insight, or just it can help with the execution?
At the moment, it's just an insight. So the way that we work is that we are excluding the junk traffic. We take care of that for you. What we've been releasing into production over the last few weeks are more valuable insights regarding your CPA, regarding your spend, regarding your ROAS on these platforms, specifically Google Meta, and then more insights that we can pull from Google Ads API related to campaign performance that you may not otherwise see. Because it's at the API level, it may not be within the console within Google, and we're trying to put this into the console within Tapper. At this stage, you can't execute within the UI, but if we keep hearing requests like that, then we'll build it.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just wanted to have an understanding of how it is, because even if it's just insights, it's not bad at all, because at the end of the day, if you have people in your team, or you are doing the optimization for your search queries or your keyword, instead of just purely looking at the data that you got from Google, you will have an additional insight to validate, which can change your decisions drastically.
Absolutely. So where we want to go is that this can be done and executed agentically. So you won't need to have like the pop-up and then someone to press the button. We will follow that trajectory. But the ideal end state is that it's taken care of for you, because why would you need the approval if the obvious thing to do? However, and this is, I don't know whether it's relevant for you or not, is what we do is pull the information from the sources which we get. We have internal measurement dashboards. We open this to our customers and we work with them on all of this data with our data analysts and data scientists to run models in production, which reduce the CPA. And then we put this into our own UI. And it's a lesson that I've learned from building startups, which is don't move from an idea straight into taking developers' time and then put it into production without validating that it's useful. So we do that within Looker first. So we're pulling with SQL queries this data, it goes into Looker, we talk to our customers, we see if there are patterns that exist, and then we execute on those patterns with models, which data scientists create. They go into production, we see what the impact is. So it's very iterative. And then after that, if there is a use case within a specific industry where we have a number of customers that are asking for this, then we'll put it into production, into the UI. And that's kind of the trajectory. And where we want to go, as I mentioned, is that from the insight, it will be human involvement. And then after that, it will just be done running in the background. Of course, you can be in the loop. Of course, you can turn it off. But ideally, this is just happening so that once you've trusted it, is the key thing. Once you know it works.
Yeah. No, I guess it's very smart that you pivoted the vision of the company, if I can say so, to be toward about reducing CPA or increasing the efficiency. because now it all makes sense. It's all about now ad fraud is one big use case that we can come in very early and try to solve it, and people can see, trust us, and then we can add other features. And I'm with you 100%. At the end of the day, developers' time are very expensive and it has to be used mindfully. We cannot just build features that no one will use, or we're not sure yet it's going to add value. So yeah, but like, since we're talking about efficiency, do you have any plans for running things around MMM, like marketing mix modeling, those kind of things? Because right now I can see, and it's very interesting, 2024, 2025, I see a lot of ad platforms, Meta and Google, opening. They have now their own MMM open source, meaning now you can have Meta, they have their own Robinson model. Google, they have their own what's called Meridian model. And they are trying also, I guess, thinking of the way that in the past, again, I don't have to be, I don't have to be political myself, but like in the past, I guess the thinking was like, we were able to get through with a lot of money from advertisers, but now we need to give them visibility. So that's why we're going to have internal teams within Meta and Google to build our own MMM model. And basically it's open source. You can get it from GitHub and get it through it. But the challenge is that for every business, they need to find their own MMM with their own changes or nuances that make sense to their own business model. So yeah, I was just thinking of, is this something in your radar?
This is something that we keep an eye on. It's always something that's discussed with marketers. It seems to be one of those unsolvable problems. But with that being said, we're not putting this on our roadmap. We have so much to be tackling with regards to improvement of detection and overall CPA improvement. This is what we're laser focused on. It's just reduce that. Even to the extent where my team want to improve the visualizations or the UI, and it's just like, guys, just focus on reducing the CPA. Our platform can look like Oracle. But if it reduces CPA, we'll grow very fast. And I'm a big believer in just focusing on one thing and making sure that we're the best at that and that the team is all aligned on that. And at the moment, that's Google and Meta platforms, DV360, but specifically Google and Meta on performance on reducing CPA.
I like it. So basically keeping the main thing, the main thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. It's super easy to go to a marketer and, essentially just say like, look, I've got all of this, we've got Snapchat, we've got TikTok, we've got X, we've got Y, we've got Z. And you get the initial sale, you get the pilot, you get the interest. But if you're not delivering, you're not going to build a successful company, a company that will retain customers, will grow them, and will have a solid reputation in the market.
No, that's true. And I guess most of marketers like me, they have shiny object syndrome, that we love to try new things, hear new things, do new things. And it's okay. I guess it's very smart right now, because at the end of the day, with how LLMs and AI improvement, the people who can focus, they will be rewarded more. That's at least what I can see, that with the development of AI and LLMs, that you can actually grow a lot of things in depth much faster than what used to be in the past. So I believe the future is going to be more about like solution or problem fixing that can actually fix one problem, but can fix it to the absolute. It doesn't have to fix everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. And are you referring in general, or are you talking about company building as well with products that you buy?
I'm talking about in general, since we were discussing this point about how you choose your company to be more focused and less generalized in a way.
Yeah. And I think the same is true with products. So software that can be purchased, I think this is how the investor ecosystem is viewing AI and AI products, which is that how big is the market? And as a result of that, how much can this company be valued? And as a result of that, how much money do they need? And they're putting literally trillions of dollars into this. And the reason why is because they're forecasting that these products will eat the work, meaning it will essentially replace labor.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be doing some of that labor. This is the agentic AI LLM kind of thing that you were talking about, which is that these products are going to be involved in end to end and having the output. So I'm sure you've seen this in Dubai with AI sales agents for real estate. That. And what are they responsible for? They're responsible for the qualified meeting from the inbound lead. And some of them seem to be working. So it's quite incredible how fast this is all moving.
Big time. And especially when it comes to like tools such as, and even like when it comes to talents, not only products, like, because at the end of the day, I guess the future of work is going to be totally different than what we are used to. If we are used to a situation that we are taking responsibility on a certain company as marketeers, and we try to take ownership and then drive results, I guess what our skill set is going to be totally different with the use of AI and LLMs. Because at the end of the day, if your job requirement is basically 10 or 12 different skills, and those skills right now are being better done by AI, then your job is going to be either how can you work or manage all of this, and if not, then you will have no place. So gone are the days that we need just to have one specialist to do very minor thing each and every day, because it just can be done with AI. And I guess it's the same for products, it's the same for companies. And we can have another big discussion maybe another day about the great reset, because it's one of the things about how it's going to happen and what is going to happen, the future of work. And I guess a lot of online, when you hear about, no, AI is not going to take your job, someone using AI is going to take your job, I don't agree. No, AI is going to take your job. And if you can be the guy who's using AI, it can help. But the development that's happening within the past 2 years, it's just crazy. You can develop website from end to end, couple of hours. And I had this interesting discussion with a friend one day. He's a developer, and I was talking about how people in computer science, they used to think about when AI will come, is going to take over the with robotics and all of this, going to take over the less IQ kind of work, construction, hard labor, all of those kind of things. But actually, what it does, it took out of the highest IQ kind of work, coding. Now you can code; anyone can have access to vibe coding and building stuff really quickly. So it's going to change. And I guess since we started on this kind of long discussion, is that most important point or the biggest advantage that companies and people can do is to focus on the main thing and to be aware how can we use AI in order to make it stronger and more solid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm curious to see if you can share with me what's on your roadmap. What is the next exciting thing that you're going to work on?
We have, as you just mentioned, to keep focus on detection and improvement of the CPA for our customers. So the majority of the developments and our work, our time, our energy and resources as Tapper and the team are focused on things under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
We're shipping into production every day.
Mm-hmm.
Improvements, new models, optimizations, etc. And a lot of that is just focusing on how can we analyze better and interpret this data, because it's literally billions of parameters, billions of rows and data sets which we're analyzing. And that's the main thing. Then there are platform integrations such as DV360, which we have coming and will be released. And then there are other areas such as mobile app and TikTok, Snapchat. So these, in terms of like broad level priorities for the company over the forthcoming months, I would lay it out like that. And then invariably, when we work with customers and we work with agencies, we're having feature requests constantly. So these are improvements, ideas, suggestions. And we backlog them, we discuss them, we try to understand and interpret the impact according to that framework, which I was discussing earlier, which is mainly about looking at whether we can see patterns. And of course, this is all happening while we're fixing things on the fly. Things are always breaking throughout the application, we're constantly fixing them as well. But the idea here is to work with a very specific set of customers that are performance orientated, that want to see quantifiable results within the Google and Meta specifically platforms, and aim to improve CPA and their overall understanding of what's going on.
And do you have an ideal customer? When you're talking about your customer, do you have an ideal customer in mind? Are you talking specifically for agencies, small startups, big companies, conglomerates?
Yeah, so agencies are our partners. So we work with some of the world's largest and most prestigious agencies in the region and globally. The advertiser themselves are the customer, and the ideal customer profile is transactions happening on page, web-based predominantly. Google and Meta, heavy spenders, $10 million a year, and are around that, and are laser focused on performance.
Yep, very clear. And I talked a lot about the future. I want to hear from you about what is your view about the future, about how, when it comes to fraud prevention and the development that also is going to happen with AI and the fraud, because a lot of also the companies that produce this kind of fraud, they are using AI in their day-to-day and LLMs and all of that. So I'm really curious to hear about your view about the future.
Yeah, I've said this before. We will use AI to fight those that are using AI for fraud. So it's something which is, I consider, like a cat and mouse. It's one of those areas where the problem, frankly, is unsolvable. There ought to be a number of things that happen to ensure that performance marketers trust the system and the platform and do not revert or retrench back and put their money in other areas. And the sophistication of the invalid traffic is something that amazes me. And what I mean by that is they are day after day, week after week, month after month, increasingly able to mimic human behavior. And the results are that it's becoming then increasingly difficult to detect, especially when anything can be spoofed. So, you're looking at a post-click report and it says that these user agents are what these user agents are. Unless you really dig into the details, the marketers are flying blind. So the nature of the fraud will become more sophisticated. There ought to be some regulatory oversight to enforce some transparency standards. Whether that comes or not is another matter. And then we're all the while playing cat and mouse, catch up, if you will, with detecting and trying to make sense of a technology that's moving so fast. And one example could be, for example, the ChatGPT and Shopify integration, and whether there's going to be a website visit for a transaction. And then what does that necessarily mean for when the inspiration or when the decision was made to purchase?
Are you referring to the update about that you can actually make an order within ChatGPT, and basically ChatGPT will be a referral? They will take a percentage of the order, something like that?
Something like that. It's more related to the agentic commerce and the nature of how humans will behave online, how much of the online activity will be non-human, following orders or executing on transactions? And then what does that mean for the ads ecosystem, for performance marketers in general? Where are you going to be aiming to put your resources and your focus? And it's not something that we have an answer to. It's just something that we're observing and we'd consider ourselves. And I'm definitely a student of this.
Yeah, same here. Now with AI, we learn something new every day. There's a new update, and it's not even a small one; it's a big one. But out of curiosity, since now you're trying to fix this problem specifically for Meta and Google, I can understand why there is some kind of ad fraud when it comes to programmatic, when it comes to other player, because there is some kind of advantage that they can get within fraud. I mean, the other people, other companies that they run, they manage the fraud or they create the fraud, ad fraud. But what actually they are getting out of, like, what is the benefit or the value that they're getting out of creating ad fraud for Meta or for Google?
Well, it's a complex problem with a broad spectrum. This can range from CPC, and this is a cost for an action. So you can inflate clicks, and as a result of inflating clicks, for example, by putting ads on your fake website, then and sending junk traffic to the advertiser, then it's a money printing machine. And the same is true with lead forms and lead generation campaigns. The same is true with stealing conversions and others from affiliate marketing campaigns. So it can vary. The nature of the fraud within these platforms, you're right, is different to a certain extent. Like within mobile app, it's mainly attribution stealing. You know, within programmatic, it's going to be related to ad stacking and, you know, verification issues as well. Within specifically Google, they can also act as the publisher, but they also have other properties, you know, search networks, etc., which are infamous for invalid traffic. And the same is true with display, and the same is true with Performance Max. And then the percentage of invalid traffic on search, yes, is lower, but still non-trivial, considering that Google makes $90 billion a quarter from search.
Yeah, and they keep gaining profit each and every financially. Like the last financial year, everyone expected Google to actually have this quarter doing not as good because of ChatGPT, and actually they actually made better than usual. I mean, when it comes to the profit and revenue.
They are the most profitable business in human history.
Wow.
There is not a better business model than monetizing intent.
Cool. I guess this was a very interesting discussion, Nasser. Thank you so much. I'm going to add a link of Tapper for anyone who want to try Tapper, that they can apply through it and try it for free, I guess, for 2 weeks, you told me. And I want to ask you if you have any closing notes for this episode.
I would just say to CMOs out there, don't outsource your decision making to the platforms, and ask questions to your partners and to your vendors with what your ad fraud strategy is. And if they can't come up with an answer, that's a red flag.
And to marketeers, that's not CMOs.
To marketeers, I would say the same. The platforms are becoming more automated. And it seems that we were discussing earlier, the role of the marketer is also evolving. So it's important that you stay ahead of the curve and make sure you understand what's going on within these campaigns. Otherwise, you'll be redundant.
Yeah, and to have an open mind. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much, Nasser. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Reach for more, performance marketing hardcore. Tune in, listen.